This call for papers, Madam President, is essential for our residents because they deserve answers. We need answers on why over 1 million of our state's residents were inconvenienced by the sudden shutdown of our trains, and the government is refusing to provide a straight answer. Premier Perrottet is the first Premier to allow the entire shutdown of our rail network when there was not even a strike. Our train system is absolutely integral.
I apologise to interrupt. I just remind members that they're supposed to be wearing masks and they're not supposed to be interjecting. Thank you. Please continue.
Our train system is absolutely integral to our city and regions, and people rely on it. People want and deserve answers on why they were left on platforms, could not get to work, school, TAFE, university and doctor's appointments. We know that workers lost wages, small businesses lost much-needed income, classes were cancelled and people paid exorbitant prices for Ubers. Our roads have been congested, with commuters stuck in traffic jams for hours on end. It was meant to be the day that we were welcoming tourists to our city, and instead they were met with a system that was completely shut down. The government blaming this on essential workers is absolutely disgraceful, as rail workers turned up for work only to find they were locked out without reason and the government was missing in action. There is footage and photos everywhere of these workers waiting to get on with their jobs. It's especially insulting to blame these workers when they've been trying to get the government to agree to ensure there are adequate safety conditions and hygiene standards, which makes things safer for both workers and the public. The Minister for Transport's story on what actually happened keeps changing. He said he didn't know about the shutdown before he went to bed, then he had an inkling, and then we hear his office knew on Sunday night at 10:43 p.m. This is why we need to see the information and obtain answers. The Minister said it was an operational decision made by Transport for New South Wales based on a safety assessment, but then the Minister said he hadn't seen the information. Where is the assessment? The government hasn't been forthcoming with it. If you use it as a basis for shutting down an entire rail network, then the public should be able to see it. Today, the Sydney Morning Herald reported the following. One minister, who spoke on the condition of anonymity, said it was pretty obvious that Elliott had completely messed the whole thing up, while another said his position as Transport Minister was surely untenable. This is yet another reason we need to see the information. Cabinet ministers...
Order. Minister on a point of order.
President, I'm prepared to give a fair bit of latitude. This is supposed to be a speech in support of why it is necessary for the Standing Order 52. Effectively what the member is engaging is a political speech in relation to the Minister Elliott and Minister Elliott's behaviour. It doesn't demonstrate why, on any basis, this Standing Order 52 may or may not be necessary in relation.
Thank you, Minister. There's no point of order. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam President. This is yet another reason we need to see the information. Cabinet ministers saying their colleagues caused Monday's events. This is extremely serious and we need the information from the government urgently. It's taxpayers' money that fund our rail system, and the government is accountable to taxpayers who want the answers. The call for papers is not asking for a large time frame of information. It is simply asking for information from the 18th of February, so there can be no excuses for not wanting to provide it. I am asking for the safety assessment and the information that was sent to and from the Transport Secretary, which is extremely reasonable. It lists the dossier that was provided to the Premier. It's already been prepared for the Premier, so it shouldn't take long to make this available to the Parliament. It's essential to find out exactly what happened with the government shutting down our train network, so we can assure this does not happen again in transport or other portfolios. The Premier of New South Wales and his government have demonstrated they are more interested in playing politics than ensuring our train system is running and providing the public answers on what actually happened. It is crucial we get to the bottom of what were the reasons behind the shutdown, as our residents were completely abandoned on Monday. The government, Madam President, is accountable to the people of this state, and they cannot simply shut down our rail network and leave people stranded and then expect to try and hide behind what they did. This SO52 goes directly to the communications that belied that decision, and we should know. Well, the Honourable, the Leader of the government says that we know what the documents are. There is a dossier that was referred to in the Sydney Morning Herald where the Premier has been availed of all the communications that pertain to this decision. We're not asking for much. Now, we're not privy to that dossier, despite the leader of the government claiming that we're in possession of the documents. And I don't think the leader of the government understands how the industrial relations system works.
You got the union document?
The union balloted
Please,
its members.
I'm sorry. Can I just ask everybody to please come to order? We're nearly through this, and I don't want to waste your time. So please
everyone
continue.
knows how this works, Madam President. The union ballots its members for what we call protected industrial action, legal action. There might be a suite of 20, 30, 40 things that people can take.
Minister will cease interjecting and the member will look at me.
And the employer, in this case, Sydney Trains, knows very well what actions are planned. And it's incumbent on the union to notify that employer what actions they're taking, which is exactly what the union did. The idea that Sydney Trains and the minister wouldn't have known weeks in advance what was happening beggars belief. This stinks to high heaven, because the only way that that rail network could have been shut down when you've got workers turning up for work in the morning to personnel those trains and get it going is because the government wasn't happy with the suite of industrial actions that was previously agreed to and decided to withdraw the capital from those workers so that they couldn't personnel the trains and turn the blame on them. That's what this is all about, and we want to get to the bottom of it by finding out the comms that occurred between the Secretary, between the ministerial staff and the agencies to find out what was the origin of the decision-making and why it was taken. And the people deserve to know. Over 1 million people inconvenienced, and the idea that you would hold them to ransom to try and bash unions as you always do, as you're designed to do.
Order, please address your remarks through the chair.
Turning it back on the workers, Madam President, and trying to hoodwink the public into believing that it was the workers' fault when we know very well that this was a conscious manipulation on behalf of the minister or the staff or those senior staff to try and turn this around. We're not going to cop it, and in order to find out exactly what happened, I think the public deserve to have these communications so that we can see the reasoning behind the decision-making.